Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and day 3 of our 13 days of Halloween series here at Polly's Paper Studio. If you're just joining in and you want to get caught up, you can find links for the first 2 days at the top of the description. So you all know how much I enjoy making my mini albums and my flip books, but my one true love is always going to be card making. So I want to create a card today with this beautiful collection that has non-traditional colors because I think that just makes it a little bit more fun. We've got so much layering on this card and I just love how cute and whimsical it turned out. So if you would like to make one like this for yourself, then stay tuned and we will make this together. I'm working with the Happy Halloween collection from P13. I really love the non-traditional colors of this rather than just orange and black. They did incorporate a very nice spring green as well as a purple, and the images in here are so nice to cut out and create your own ephemera. And they also have a nice selection of cut-aparts for journal cards as well. I'm working with a standard size greeting card. It's 6.5 high by 5 inches wide. And I always like to cut my own because I feel like I can cut them more precisely than what you get if you pick them up in a pre-made package. So my paper is 65 pound weight and it's cut to be 6.5 by 10 and scored at 5. So I always like to finish the insides of my cards. I think it gives it a more finished look as well as make it a little bit more sturdy. So I just went ahead and added that, and I'm picking a very pretty lilac color to go with this collection. I thought that a darker purple was just a little bit too much contrast, and so I'll be using that lilac all the way throughout. And I'm just gonna go and match the inside of the card for the front cover. You can imagine how nice and thick and sturdy this is already going to feel because we've got 6 layers of paper. So here is the first layer that I'm going to add. It has a spacer of foam in between so we can begin to develop some dimension. And this is just a very non-contrasting pattern from that collection. So the spider web in the background is a little bit festive, and this creates a really fun border when applied to that diagonal stripe. My next layer is just going to be one of those cut aparts that I mentioned. These obviously were like the journal cards from the sheets of cut aparts, and this was in the center, and I wanted to use this as my sentiment. And once I cut that out, I realized I had made a fun little frame, and so I'm just going to go ahead and add that between some of these layers, and that will be just a little bit of extra detail. The background of this is more of those spider webs, so I didn't cut it all the way to that frame section. And I think this is just going to add a little pop of color to this corner for balance. And I'm going to top that with that beautiful spring green plaid. So this is cut with a dovetail stitched edge die. You don't need a die to make these. It's very simple to cut out with just a template. So I'll just add this here. I'm going to position this a little bit lower and a little to the right of center. And this is going to be the base for the embellishments that we're going to add. So the first thing I want to bring in is this wreath. Remember, I shared this in our haul video, a Pink and Main wreath base die, and this is cut from that same lilac cardstock as the base. Actually, I cut it from the paper that is behind this pattern just so that I could be a little bit more frugal. And so because this has very fragile little bits, I'm gonna have to bring in my Tombow just to get that adhered down. There just isn't enough room there for my double-sided adhesive tape. I always like to use the back of one of those Dollar Tree placemats as a working surface so that I can keep the adhesives off of my filming area. And then I'm just going to position my wreath now almost to the very top of that layering die cut and almost all the way over to where it would meet the spider web pattern here. I want some of it to show. It's going to be layered in with other embellishments, so I need to position it a little bit higher so that it will be more visible. And because that is wet adhesive, you do need to apply just a little bit of pressure and time for that to set up. So the next element that I have is that sentiment that I shared with you. I cut that out with a rectangle that had a curved edge and a stitching detail. I did add an eyelet here and some twine, and then more spacers for the back of this so that we can continue to build up those layers. So I'm going to position this at an angle, and this is also going to help secure down that wreath. So it will be building up all the layers as we work along. So I brought my arrangement down here. This is a combination of flowers from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I finished the center with some of their gold stamens to coordinate with these, which are from Little Birdie Crafts. And then I'm using that Lawn Fawn stitched fall leaf here for two of these layers. The first one in the back is just kind of a nice green that coordinates with my plaid paper. And then I also have a purpley kind of glitter paper. It's a little bit lighter, and so this is going to be a nice contrast as well as a little bit of sparkle. And I'm positioning this closer to the bottom. I'm not going to secure it yet because I want to add my additional layering details so that I know they're positioned correctly. So like I mentioned, you can cut all of those little pieces out and make your own ephemera. So I really liked this little pumpkin guy, and I'm gonna put him in temporarily as well so that I can see the placement of my additional pieces. I picked that same purple cardstock, it's glittery, to create a couple of sizes of stars. I use the Sizzix Nesting Star die set so I can get a couple of different sizes. And I want to position this. You see how I can overlap the edge of that star right onto that sentiment without blocking any of those letters. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add that now. Just gonna add this with a little bit of hot glue. And then I'm gonna top it with an additional star. This one was another fussy cut from the ephemera page, and I'm just gonna layer that on closer to the bottom so that I can sort of fill in this corner. You will definitely want hot glue if you're adhering anything to a glittery paper because it needs to get down into that texture and set up so that it's well adhered. Okay, so now I can decide where this pumpkin should go. So let's position this right here so that we keep that level line across the bottom. And I just decided at the last minute that I wanted to add a little bit of foam tape to the back so that I can build more dimension and keep these layers from looking a little bit too busy. So let's add the pumpkin here. I just love that pumpkin profile. It's got a little bit of a snaggle tooth there, and so I think that gives it a little bit of extra character. Okay, let's go ahead and put our flower arrangement back in place and see how everything is lining up. Like I mentioned, I want to have two sets of those stars, and so I'm going to position these on this corner on the top. And once again, I'm going to pick that glittery one to go on the bottom of my fussy cut, just so that I can get more definition and it won't look quite so cluttered. Okay, so now it's time to add our flower arrangement, and this is going to be, like I said, wrapping around the corner on the bottom, and I finished it off with a beautifully coordinated ribbon. This is from Really Reasonable Ribbon as well, and I think that really pulls that kind of plum color from our flowers and the stripe. Such a nice thing about creating your arrangements off project, you can really sort of work them around and make sure to get the space filled how you want it and not have to worry about stacking them up as you work along. A couple of final details that I want to include are some charms here. I've got some little jack-o'-lanterns, and as I do, I've tied them to some string so that I can place them exactly where I want them to fall. Add a little hot glue there and press my string into that glue. So now I know that my charms are exactly where I want them to fall. I am going to remove the excess string now, and then I'll just cover that cut edge with a purpley button here, and that really creates a very nice embellishment cluster to fill in this left-hand side of the wreath. So I brought down a couple of choices for sequins, and I thought I would probably want to see how everything was playing out before I added them, and my instinct tells me that I should go with this lighter color. It's a little bit metallic, and so I think that will make a nice detail on these corners. It's already got a lot going on, and this is just going to finish it off so nicely. So while I am positioning my sequins, I think this is a great time for the question of the day. So this is another would you rather, and I am going to ask, if you had to choose one for an entire year, would you rather have only chocolate candies or gummy fruity candies? So I'm gonna pick gummy fruity candies only because I think I can get off on a technicality, because it didn't say that you couldn't have cake or cookies or brownies. So you could get your chocolate fix in that way and still get to enjoy the Starburst and the gummy bears. So I'm going to pick gummy fruity candies. You can let me know down in the comment section what is your pick. I'm thinking that I want to bring in just a little bit of stickles and add a little bit of extra detail to my jack-o'-lantern. And that's gonna finish off our card for day 3. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you come back tomorrow for day 4. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps my channel. And remember, you can find links to the products I mentioned today in the top of the description. As always, I'm wishing you all a happy and productive day. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.